Good afternoon, everyone. We are breaking into your programming right now with news that Chicago Bears team owner Virginia Halas McCaskey has passed away. The matriarch of the Chicago Bears dies at the age of 102. She turned 102 last month. And as you can imagine, this is big news for the Chicago area, as Virginia McCaskey has been leading that organization, the Chicago Bears, since 1983. And I am joined now by Cassie Carlson to talk a little bit more about her impact and what this means to the Chicago Bears franchise. Surprise news, even at the age of 102, she was quite the symbol of the Chicago Bears and somebody who kind of tried to keep out of the spotlight. So even though with all of this, today's news comes as a surprise.
Yeah, very surprising. I actually think back to a few weeks ago when Ben Johnson was hired. George McCaskey was asked if Virginia McCaskey, his mom, had met Ben Johnson during the hiring process. And he said, no, not yet. But she was excited about the direction that the franchise was going. But you think 102 years old, right. 41 years as the team owner. And you mentioned just the legacy she leaves behind, being a woman also as an owner in the NFL, one of the charter franchises. And that video was taken at a luncheon, I believe last March, when she was talking with some friends. Very happy. You can see the smile on her face. And I know a lot of us were talking at that luncheon saying, wow, at 101 years old at that point, she was still there and so just vibrant.
And yeah, and you have to wonder too, obviously they passed a lot of things that were going on because she was in charge, but this was somebody who at this age was still playing a significant role in what was happening with this organization.
Yeah, within the buildings, involved in some of the coaching as well on a day-to-day basis, or maybe not so much day-to-day, but in the season she was around Halas Hall. I think back to her 100th birthday, where she was out at practice surrounded by all the players and coaches with balloons. And just I think it's important to stress just the pioneer that she was, being one of the females involved in the NFL.
When you were out there and you would see her out there, what was it like? I mean, because it truly is royalty in a way. What was it like to see her interaction and the players and everybody else who was out there, even the fans who would come out sometimes to watch?
Yeah, well, she wasn't at practice every day, but I think, as you mentioned, just the royalty, the presence that she had being around the building and everyone knowing who Virginia McCaskey is in the NFL circles. You know, a very important person, and being in Chicago and one of the founding franchises. She was alive for 8 of the 9 Super Bowl championships that the Bears witnessed. And the timing, too, just the Bears celebrating 40 years since that 85 Super Bowl win. She's been the owner for 41 years, and so a lot has happened in that span of time, but just with 41 years as the owner, 40 years since the last Super Bowl, I think that's pretty significant too.
Now the Bears have already released a statement, haven't they?
Yes, in the statement they said that Mrs. McCaskey understood not only her father's love and appreciation of football and the team which he played for, coached, and owned, but also the love of the Chicago Bears by its fans. She always kept in mind what the Bears meant to the city of Chicago and what the city meant to the Bears. She had a passion for the team that matched her father's, celebrating every win with grace while quietly suffering every loss. She made it a point to attend every game she could, both home and away, and was alive for 8 of the Bears' 9 world championships. They went on to say her focus was never to lead the Bears organization, rather to instill her faith in those who did. She wanted to help everyone who touched the organization, staff, coaches, players, and fans realize they were all a part of one big family. Mrs. McCaskey hoped that Bears fans had as much faith in the team as she did in them, and through it all, Mrs. McCaskey couldn't imagine her life as anything else than what it was.
And you have to wonder at this point, what comes next with the Bears franchise? She was such a significant player throughout all of this time. Obviously, you know, at the age of 102, they've been trying to think about what the future is going to mean. What do you think comes next?
Well, we know that George McCaskey is the chairman right now, and I would assume that he would maybe be the leader to finding what might come next. Because Virginia McCaskey, as we just heard, you know, the day-to-day she left to the people that were hired to do their job. So she wasn't necessarily involved in all the logistics on a day-to-day basis, whereas George McCaskey right now is more involved in that. But I think it's a good question of what is next. She was a symbol for so many years, and now they're going to have to find what direction they want to go in. We know fans have asked for certain things. We know that this is a family-run organization, which is rare to find these days in the NFL. So they're going to have to decide if they want to stick that way or go a different direction.
It'd be interesting interesting to see what they end up doing, what the significance of her role with this organization. You talked about how many world championships she saw. There weren't too many people that could address the things that she actually witnessed during her time with this organization. And you mentioned the fact that she was a female, you know, so a lot of people, it would be great, and I'm sure this has been done, to go back and talk about the early days with her when she got involved, and the role that women played in sports, which was minute compared to where it is today. The stories that must have come from her must have been incredible. As we look right now, a little bit of her background. She was born in 1923. As she went off to school, came back to Chicago, 1949, and she started working with the Bears in 1967. Cassie, you weren't even born yet. Wow. And then she became the principal owner of the team, of course, after her father's death.